Hey everyone, Tactics here, and while there wasn't a ton of updates on the 9.1 PTR this week, there were a few Mythic Plus related things that I wanted to talk about, namely the Keystone Master achievement requirement changes that a lot of people have been talking about, as well as some data mining of the Domination Seasonal Affix. Remember, if you enjoyed this video though, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to be notified when I post more Warcraft content, and let's start off with some more info on the Seasonal Affix. So if you guys remember, the last thing we learned about this seasonal affix is that there are going to be mobs in the dungeon, champions of the jailer that we have to kill, that will drop anima powers. We don't know how they work at all, but we do know now a couple of things that are likely to happen. So these are anima powers based on dungeon affixes. So here, this one is based on necrotic. Your harmful spells and abilities consume the target with creeping decay, inflicting some amount of physical damage every 2 seconds, and reducing healing and absorption received by 2%, stacking 10 times. And then a volcanic one, where your damaging abilities have a chance to create a gout of flame beneath the target that erupts after 2.5 seconds, dealing some amount of fire damage to all enemies within 3 yards and knocking them upwards. So some interesting things here. Obviously, we don't know anything about this, so we don't know if these are going to be available every week, if they're only available on the week that that specific affix is up. And again, on acquisition, we don't know, are those champions similar to Beguiling, where they're in random packs that can rotate? Is it similar to Awakened, where they're stationary, and then mobs have like a set number of drops that they have, so you know exactly what's going to drop what? There's no RNG element. Or is it going to be like Prideful, where it spawns based on different trash percents and they just kind of ambush you? We don't know any of that yet. So this does sound kind of cool and definitely better than the anima power stuff first thought of when the initial data mining was released. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but this is kind of like in the middle ground right now, where the implementation could make this a very, very good Mythic Plus affix, or it could make it a very, very bad Mythic Plus affix. So gonna have to wait a little bit more to see how this develops further, but so far I guess I would say I'm cautiously optimistic. That's where I'm at right now. Then Season 2 Keystone Master requires plus 15s on both Tyrannical and Fortified. Now this headline got a lot of people very upset. I think it's a bit disingenuous. This is obviously not false, but it's only one of the examples. So if you actually read down here, so there's a ton of stuff about the actual system itself. So here, the main thing is that for the system itself, you get points now based on both Fortified and Tyrannical for a single dungeon. So let's just take one, for example, Mists of Tyrna Scythe. If you complete a 15 Mists of Tyrna Scythe on Fortified, it'll give you about 187 points. If you complete a 15 Mists of Tyrna Scythe on Tyrannical as well, it'll give you 33% of those points, giving you about 249 points for a single dungeon on plus 15. Now, the scaling for this system, this point system, is linear. So those familiar with the Radiant IO system, it's exponential, so you get more points the higher keys you do. This is just a flat linear increase. I believe it's 12.5 they mentioned in this article per dungeon level per affix. So what this basically means is that if you want to avoid having to do a 15 Tyrannical and a 15 Fortified, you can do something like a 16 Fortified, which will let you go all the way down to a 12 Tyrannical, or a 17 Fortified, which would let you go all the way down to even a 9 Tyrannical. So it's not as bad as it appears at first glance, but I still don't like it, and I'll explain why. I think this is the wrong kind of difficulty. So what this does is it's not going to have any impact on people who are already easily getting KSM. There's going to be essentially no real change for them. What this does change is it changes the bottom end of people that are getting KSM, maybe because they lack a lot of time to push for KSM. That's one of the bigger things. And this is going to just further increase that divide. So it's not actually increasing the difficulty of the dungeons themselves. It's increasing the difficulty of getting the achievement by increasing the time investment required to get it. And that's where I think this is kind of the wrong difficulty that Blizzard added. If it was something like perhaps maybe for this specific season, right, talking about Prideful season, if the 15s had the same scaling as the 18s, I think that would be a better kind of difficulty addition, rather than you have to complete both Tyrannical and Fortified in some way to get the achievement, right? So if you had to do both 15s on Fortified and Tyrannical, given this example, obviously that's probably not going to be the easiest way for some people. The easiest way is probably going to be get that 16 on Fortified, or maybe even that 17 if you can. But I just think that this is the wrong kind of difficulty increase. And as someone who's Mythic Plus push team, the main problem with us is having and finding the time for all 5 of us to be able to push keys. I definitely empathize with that. So I can see why this is going to be bad news for a lot of players. They don't like this change. I personally don't like this change, right? Let's be honest. Tyrannical and Fortified, they're one of the few remaining artifacts of the initial Mythic Plus system way back in Legion, and I think they've just kind of run their course, and frankly, scaling should just be scaling no matter the week. If they wanted to do something like increase the difficulty, I think it should have been in the actual scaling of the dungeons as opposed to increasing the time investment, because this isn't really going to change the pool of people that could obtain KSM. It's just going to change the pool of people that actually will, because some are just not going to be able to invest the same amount of time as others. But that is pretty much it for this week in the 9.1 changes. I would love to know what you guys think about the system changes that Blizzard's implementing, as well as how you're feeling about the new Domination seasonal affix so far. So just leave a comment down below and let me know how you guys are feeling. For those interested, you can also check me out on my Twitch at Tactics, where I do all things World of Warcraft, from tanking high Mythic Plus keys to Mythic Raids, and maybe even a little bit of feral tanking in TBC. That is it for me though, guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.